hello. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, hey.
So, yeah, we joke about it. By the way, if you follow Josh on the social medias, you will know that the past couple conventions, Josh has gotten stuck at elevators.
Yeah, and I mean, even goes farther back when I was doing Voltron, when we were doing our last panel for the show at New York Comic Con. And yeah, it's like all the creators for our last panel.
Right before.
For like 45 minutes. And yeah, it's like all the creators of the show, the whole cast, we were all stuck in this cargo elevator.
So do not get in an elevator with Josh.
Yeah, that's the lesson.
But you know what? I
Right?
was
Take
putting
the
everybody
stairs.
at ease in the last one because like everybody's freaking out. They're like, oh my God, what if we run out of air and all that? And I was like, you're not gonna run out of air. I'm like, look at the front. You
not
see how
airtight.
there's like gaps in between the doors here? And see up here,
feel
the
right when
metal's all
you're with me.
perforated so the air can escape. I'm like, you have air transfer, you're good.
Right.
Like everything. And I'm like, and we're on the floor, so it's not gonna fall. And
Okay,
the
but
mood improved a little bit after that.
have you ever gotten stuck in a stairwell? I have.
Oh, I
You have?
Yes.
I have. To try to avoid getting stuck in an elevator.
Oh,
and
no.
and I guess.
Was it one of those
I guess,
things where like
yeah,
the
Final
doors only
Destination
open
was like,
from
no,
the
you're getting stuck regardless. And
Was it like the thing where the door only opens from the inside, but once you're
Yes.
in the stairwell,
Yes.
you can't unless you
And
go
then I
out
had
the
no
bottom?
signal on my phone to tell everyone, come open the door. And I just kind of sat there until someone showed up. And luckily it wasn't long, but I'm like, I may be spending the night here.
That's
It was at a
awful.
studio too, and I was like, I'm not taking, because the elevators to the floor where the studio was recording that day was like really rickety. Like I got
Yeah.
in the elevator and I was like, oh no, it's moving. Like,
Yeah. And if you got in there with me, it definitely would have stopped.
yeah,
So.
yeah. So I'm like, nah, just taking the stairs. And then I just got stuck in the stairwell because the doors didn't open and the exit doors didn't open either. I'm like, that seems
Oh, the exit
illegal.
doors didn't open.
Yeah. So
Terrible. I can't go anywhere with you guys.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just like
Between
I have in
elevators
my
and
writer now.
stairs.
I have to have a first floor everything. I only record on first floors.
Wow. Wow.
Luckily here at this building, no elevators. You are good.
Hey! Let's hear it for no elevator.
Hey.
So, Gabe, Josh, I have a question directed to you guys because
Okay.
you have both been, and Amelie, you know, a great music career, but both of you guys have a background in music as well, right?
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. Music is my thing, especially vocal music. I have a Grammy-nominated a cappella group called King's Return.
What?
Yeah,
Congrats,
that
man, that's
I
incredible.
vocal arrange for, and I do a lot of. We're currently right now working with Stevie Wonder,
Oh
which is
my
really
God.
cool. I know it just happened.
my
I'm still,
idol, man.
I'm still on like cloud nine.
You should be, man.
This
That's
dude,
incredible.
I just have to say, Stevie is a freaking genius and unreal. And I think the most impressive thing is he edits his own vocals. That's the part that, because, you know, he just lets sit there. It's like, you're blind, right? Like, you can't see. The man is like cutting his own vocals, dragging files from one to another, also playing our parts. It's unreal. So anyway, all that to say, I love music so much. I have a degree in music education, so I was going to be a choir director, and then voiceover was like, nah, come this way.
Hey, Josh, you were in a boy band, right?
Yeah, I was in a boy band back in like the late 90s, early 2000s called No Authority. And we were signed to Michael Jackson's label. And we had an album out, and we did okay in Europe, you know, a little thing here and there. And then I ended up leaving the group because our manager was kind of a crook. Well, definitely a crook. And just stuff with all that, and so I left. And then they put out another album after I left. But, you know, I just did the first one. But I had a great time, man. We got to work with a lot of really incredible producers. I got to work with this really incredible producer named Rodney Jerkins before he blew up and was like this huge thing. Yeah, he did our whole first album. Yeah. So
Wow, small world.
yeah.
So cool. I did not know that about you guys. That's so cool.
So maybe we could have we could put together a band.
We could probably put
could
something
do it.
together right here. Yeah.
We could
Do
do
some
it.
anime music? Listen.
Let's do it. I'll arrange.
You can rap.
That I want to.
rap.
I'll play the
Wait.
triangle. Yeah.
More
Right at the
cowbell.
end.
That I want to see.
I am actually a classically trained pianist, though. That was my
Wait,
career
what?
path. Yeah, I compose as well. So like it's not known. I don't talk about it, but very much. But I actually compose music for a game that's coming out later this year.
Did you really? That's
I
fantastic.
can't say the game yet, but I'm really excited about it. Yeah. So I cannot sing to save my life at
Right.
all. I mean, I have a great voice if you're not committed to like the tune. Like it's great if you don't know what the tune is. I sound amazing, but the minute you try to harmonize, no. But yeah, I went to conservatory for piano and went to education as well, like music. I went to pedagogy school to learn it. Yeah, and now I'm an actor, so it seems to be a very common trajectory for
What a
us.
small world.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
That's so
Yeah,
crazy.
so we're all music people up here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I am not. I listen to the music.
Nice.
That's
Still a
about
vital
Very
part of the
important
process.
piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about as far as it goes. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
How
It's a little best kept secret for me. I don't really talk about it a lot because I'm just like, no, I'm a voice actor, but like I compose on the side.
Is that something that's, sorry if this isn't what you all wanted. Is that something that the stereotypical young child and, parents making them, play the piano, or how did you get into that?
I was lucky. So it's a long story, but the short version is my grandfather was a pianist and a very, very good one. And he would have been a professional jazz pianist, but gave up his career because my grandmother, obviously many, many years before I was born, she was a dancer. That's how they met, and they used to gig together. She lost the use of her legs by contracting polio, unfortunately, and so he gave up his career as well, and they went different trajectories. To support each other, because he was like, they loved each other dearly, and he's like, if you don't get to do your dream, I don't do my dream anymore. That's just how it is. So he played, but he only played for family, and he taught me because I had long fingers when I was a kid. He's like, those are piano fingers. And so I just had to sit down, and I loved it. He was so much fun to play with because, he wasn't strict. He was just like, yeah, we're in the key of X, just figure it out kind of thing. And then it was always part of my life, longer than acting was actually, and then yeah, and I decided to flip a coin when it came time to go to college. Was like, do I want to study acting, which I love, or music, which I love? And I decided my grandfather was such a hero to me for many reasons that I wanted to be a piano teacher. So I went to a pedagogy school, and then promptly dropped out because I hated it. And then focused on acting. But yeah, and then it's a weird life. About 10 years ago. And so it's a weird life.
I looked out in the crowd and I saw people looking at their fingers going, do I have piano fingers?
Everyone has piano fingers. Anyone can play piano, really. Like, there are people that play with their feet.
This is true.
This is very true, yeah.
By the way, is this anybody's first time up here in the San Jose area, the Bay
I
Area?
want to say for me, San
Yes,
Jose.
it is.
Not the first time in Bay, but first time
It's
in
my first time.
Jose.
Me too. Me too.
I've been.
Have you gotten a chance to, when did you guys get in town? Did you have a chance to go out eat anywhere?
I went to the Winchester
Got here.
mansion
Yeah.
this morning.
Oh,
yeah.
this morning.
Yeah. That was cool. That was really cool.
I saw that online and I sent it to Michael
gotta go.
because there's so much story history to it. It's crazy.
The tour is great.
Yeah.
The tour guide was really, really good.
Oh,
and
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got to check it out.
Yeah,
I
we
went to the
got you.
Monopoly Park.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
How
I
was
saw
that?
too.
It's Monopoly
yeah.
Park?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
Monopoly Park.
I don't
Like
know
the
about
world's largest Monopoly board, on the ground.
Yeah, it's like 2 blocks away.
I want to go straight to jail. Just
this. Okay, so I have a
Straight
question.
That
So
was
I
the
did
first picture I took.
I did the Winchester Mystery Mansion years ago when we were first here, and the story they told was the typical story about she was Sarah Winchester was building the house to confuse the spirits of the dead
Yes.
that were killed by Winchester rifles. Is that still the story they tell?
I don't know if it's the spirits that were killed by Winchester rifles. I think they didn't really touch on that aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, they took us to the seance room, and there were different exits to the seance room. One of them was basically like a trap door. Like you open it and you would fall into the kitchen down below 8 feet. That was the one to confuse the spirits.
Did you see any spirits?
I didn't. He did say that there's one. Well, the way that they said it is that she actually was a really good employer, and she paid double what the wage of the time was, and gave people lodging and all of that. So everybody that worked for her wanted to keep working for her, and so they said that there was a plumber or one of the handy people. They still see him pushing a wheelbarrow in the basement and stuff like that. But yeah, it was neat. It was neat. It was really
Do you
cool.
want me to ruin it for you?
Yes, yes. I love
So this is
Ruin.
my jam. Ghost stories and lore
Okay.
and stuff like that is my jam.
you had
And I
a-
used to
you
do a
had a
podcast
podcast.
for a while, and we
Yeah.
did one on the Winchester Mansion because
Yeah.
I'd gone to it before. I was like, I do really do a deep dive into the research, and we do
Yeah.
research. And while elements of the story are true, it is Sarah Winchester was real, and she had a bunch of money because her husband was a Winchester heir,
Yeah.
and she built this house and built onto it for the rest of her life, and kept the town of San Jose and all the contractors there employed pretty much around the clock.
Yeah.
So everyone loved her. It had nothing to do with ghosts. What happened? She didn't, as far as we know, she didn't believe in ghosts or have any connection. Whatever the Winchester story, for the longest time, the story was that they were ghosts of people that had died, being shot by or killed by Winchester rifles. But that wasn't the business her husband was. He was a Winchester of that fame, but his branch of the business was linens and shirts. He never sold a gun in his life. So that's not where any of her money came from. She was interested in architecture, deeply interested in it, but being a woman in those days, she was not allowed to study it formally. So she was like, screw you, I'm rich, I'm just gonna build onto my house and try different styles. So she was a genius that just figured it out on her own and used this house as kind of her architecture
That
laboratory.
makes so much sense.
And so it was great too. She was very rich, so she had a lot of really annoying distant relatives that were like, "We'd love to come and visit you, Sarah." And she'd be like, "Oh, I'd love to, but we're renovating." So she kept she kept building year round to keep people out and keep the town employed. Get his name, it was something like John. To claim the house, the city didn't know what to do with it. This guy, and I forget his name, it was something like John something or other. He came from Crystal City, Canada, from a carnival there, which he was a carny. He was a carnival barker. He's credited for having developed the world's first roller coaster. It went all of 10 miles an hour. It was called, get this, the Backety Back. True story. It killed a woman, and he had to flee. The real story is so much more interesting. It killed a woman, and so he was fleeing a manslaughter charge from Canada, and he just wound up in San Jose, found this crazy house that was just sitting there rotting because the city didn't know what to do with it. He was like, let me buy it, or give me the money, I'll buy it, I'll pay you back, and we'll turn it into a haunted house because that's the kind of stuff we did at carnivals. So he completely invented the story about her building it to confuse the ghosts. Because, guys, ghosts aren't that stupid. Ghosts are like, oh, I don't know where the stairs go.
Yeah. I mean, you could just go through the wall. Like,
Right, exactly.
Just
So
fly.
she was just a very wealthy woman who wanted to study, was not allowed to, and so she was like, screw you, I'm going to do it myself, and built that house just to play with different architectural styles as they came into vogue.
That's crazy.
And if you will go through the house, it kind of feels like an
Absolutely.
IKEA showroom. You're like, oh, this is the tulip room. This is
Right.
the room, whatever. And she's like, well, let's try a staircase. Well, I got no practical use for it. Well, build a staircase anyway. I don't care. I want to see how to build a staircase.
The thing that blew me away was how short everything was, because she was short. She
She was
wasn't
very
even 5
tiny.
feet tall. So, like, the ceiling, like, I felt like a giant in there. And I'm not a tall guy. So I was like, is this what tall people feel like when they're in, like, a normal house? And they're like, oh, got to go under the doorway. And, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So,
So obviously,
yeah,
you had your podcast. Do you? So you're a believer in the paranormal, or are you
yeah,
a skeptic that likes to-
I'm a skeptical believer. Like I'm fascinated by it, and I believe maybe 1/10 of everything I hear. But I'm fascinated with the phenomenon. I believe in the phenomenon, but I don't necessarily believe in the explanations we get for them. So people are like, "Oh, it's your grandma," and I'm like, I hope grandma has better shit to do than hang around and watch me. But yeah, it's interesting. It's complicated. That's a whole other panel. I don't want to. I've already ruined everyone's life with the Winchester story. I'm so sorry. It's a
I
great
loved it.
house.
I
Go
loved
see
it.
it and
Yeah,
listen
no,
to their
it's
story. They work
incredible.
hard, but it's embellished a little bit for ticket sales.
Marketing,
For
guys,
it's marketing.
marketing.
It's marketing. It's
Emily,
marketing.
do you believe in the paranormal?
Oh, I wanted to go to this place, so I sent it to him. But for some reason, ghosts really like me, and I really don't like them. And I guess they just are like, oh, that one's scared of us, because I feel like I see shit all of the time. So I was like, I want to go to that, but I don't. Yeah.
Gabe,
so-
Josh.
I'm a PK, so my dad's a pastor and all that stuff. So I would leave in it. I just can't. I can't go near it, man. I gotta go the other direction. Anytime
Me
somebody
too, me
talks
too.
about a ghost or something, I'm like, I'm gonna go that way. I do not want to fight with
I
them.
wouldn't say I'm like freaked out at all about it. I try to keep an open mind. So like I'm not going to go and say they definitively don't exist because I don't have that knowledge. Like I can't say for sure. So I try to keep an open mind.
Would you guys like to answer some questions from our fine
Yeah,
folks?
absolutely.
So if you guys have questions, please feel free to start lining up. Feel free to line up. Hello, what's your name?
Oh, Sterling. and-
Sterling, hello.
Hi. Yeah, my daughter's really interested in voice acting, and I'd just love to hear anything input on like voice acting in particular.
Like
That would
getting
be-
involved in it?
getting
or-
involved, walking that journey. Anything that anyone's interested in talking
There
about related to
is
that.
I feel like we say this at every single panel, but there's a website called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. A phenomenal voice actor named D. Bradley Baker runs it. I'm sure that you've heard him in a bunch of things. And it has a lot of information for somebody who's looking to just start out, get their feet wet and really kind of figure it out. There's also a lot of communities on Facebook that you can join that have to do with voice acting, that have very active communities. There's some teachers that are fantastic. Steve Bloom has a class, Bloomvox Studios, BLUMVOX, and they're fantastic. And there's others I'm sure that my friends up here can also recommend some other people. I would say, like, in terms of what you want to really focus on, you want to focus on reading out loud as often as possible, because everybody can attest you don't get a whole lot of time to prepare for anything. So you need to get really comfortable with just picking words up off of the page and bringing them to life as if they're thoughts in your head and not like words on a page. Acting, just acting classes. And it doesn't even have to be so much voice acting classes. what we do is still just a discipline of acting. So the more that you can analyze a character and analyze a text and know what your character's arc is in this and what your goal is in a scene, like all that kind of stuff that you would learn for on-camera acting or theater acting still applies with voiceover. And we're all involved in music. I would say sing as often as possible. Singing is like yoga for your voice. Like it helps with your breath control, it helps with your pitch, it helps with your ear, it helps with your range, it helps with so many different things. So yeah, so I mean, I would say acting classes, improv, singing, and reading. That's what I would say.
All good things. Yeah.
Knocked it out.
Yeah, that's, that covers it.
You got it all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, what's your name?
Hello, my name is Marina.
Hi, Marina.
Hello, hi. So I have a question. So I'm doing voice acting classes as well. And apparently my mom found out that I am doing voice acting without me telling her. So I was wondering, how did every one of yours as like parents or relatives found out that you're voice acting and what their reaction was like first time?
For me, it was 2017, so my senior year of
Yeah.
college. Like I said, I was studying music education, so my parents thought I was going to go to school for teaching. And then that was also, like, up until that point, I was studying heavily voice acting, and I got an agent and everything. I didn't tell them yet. And finally, a check came in the mail
Yeah.
for one of the, I was doing promos. So promos
Yeah.
and stuff like coming up next for whatever.
Yeah.
And was a lot of money in promos.
Yes.
And so they pop open that check. It was like, I think it was like $7 grand or something like that. I've never seen in my life that much money at one time, ever. And so my parents was like, what is this? I'm like, oh, that's from promos. I do voice act. What do you mean voiceover? I thought you were going to school for music education. What is it? So, it was a bunch of that. But then when it came down, it was like, no, it's real. You can cash it. We can get, some light bills paid and all that stuff. They were like, you know what? Get your degree. And then after that, just do voice acting for a year. See, for a lot of people out. So unfortunately, it was like, there's the money, and then, but for a lot of people, it's like there's no money in it, or there's, and so for me, it was, hard to kind of transition from like doing it a year and then going, all right, I'm just gonna do this full time. But my parents were very supportive of that. So I would honestly say, just keep at it, don't stop. Like if this is your passion, you really want to do this. I know it's going to be difficult because they're gonna make it kind of difficult. Since they don't understand what we do, it's kind of like you're playing. You're like, what do you mean playing with your voice? Like go be a doctor or a lawyer. Or you go. So I would say I continue on that passion, that road for stuff, and don't quit.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyone else in there?
I started voice acting when I was 14, and I would just like have like a little setup in my closet, and I would just be like screaming auditions in there, and my parents would be like, what is she doing? And of course my parents were very supportive and stuff, but they obviously didn't know what I was doing until I got cast as Uta in One Piece Film Red, and they had a premiere in LA at the Chinese Theater, which is super cool, and I invited my parents, and I think that was the moment they were like, oh, wait, this is really something, I guess. I guess you can keep doing this. But it was really, really funny. But yeah, just started forever ago, and just screaming in my closet, really.
I was rather late to the game. I didn't start till I was 28. I had a whole other career path, and I'd acted when I was younger, mostly stage, and I loved it, but it was no way to make a living, so I focused on, I found myself in a marketing job for a number of years, and I started doing voiceover on the side. Just because a buddy of mine worked up at Funimation back when it was Funimation, was like, hey, we're looking for some new voices, and so he got me in, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. That's a whole other story, but I came in just thinking, oh, cool, I'll do this one thing, and you're like, hey, I got to be in one episode of Dragon Ball or whatever, and no, and here we are 20 years later, and they won't stop. I don't know why I keep getting work, but my parents had no frame of reference for it, because it's not like they watch anime or play video games. But, and they're like, what? But every now and again, I'd show them something that I thought would be something they'd get into, and they'd be like, but my mother, she can't show my mother anime, and she's like, what's his face doing? I'm like, oh, that's a sweat bead. What? I have to explain that whole aesthetic to her. It's like trying to explain modern art to someone that's never seen a drawing before. And she'll be like, that doesn't sound like you at all. It's like, I don't think she entirely believes that I do it.
I think I'm
Because
on
my
the
dad would
same
be like,
boat
I
as
hear him.
you.
I hear him all the time. And my mother's like, I just don't hear it, whatever. But it did not become real for them until I did something on the local news in Dallas, Texas, where they came to the studio to film a bunch of us doing things at Funimation to highlight a local business. So weird to think of Funimation as a local business. But this is 1,000 years ago, and it was like the news. It was on the 6 o'clock news on Channel 4, and my parents were like, Betsy just saw you on the news. I was like, I made it. Yeah, Channel 4 News. I was interviewed for like 2 seconds, and when I was literally me just saying, yeah, it's a great job, and then cut away to someone else. It was like blink and you'll miss it. If my mom had gone to get her water at that moment, they'd never have known. And now they're like, wow, you're famous. I'm like,
That's amazing. That's amazing. Crazy. For me, I was actually a child actor, so I've never known anything else. I've never had a real job. It's like I've grown up in the business and been fortunate enough to work relatively consistently. You know, I've had good years, I've had bad years, and I've kind of bounced around the entire spectrum of the entertainment industry. You know, starting out with like, you know, at the bottom doing extra work, and then commercials, and then independent films, and on camera, you know, sitcoms back when sitcoms were a thing, and TV, and then music, and then voiceover. So I never really found what I loved until I really loved voiceover because it allowed me to play things that I couldn't necessarily play on camera. It just it didn't tie me down to physical type, because I'm mixed race. My mother's Peruvian, so I'm Latino, and my dad, like, I would go audition for Latino roles, and they'd be like, camera roles. I was always kind of stuck in that middle where, like, I would go audition for Latino roles, and they'd be like, I wouldn't be dark enough, or, you know, and then I would go audition for Caucasian roles, and I was a little too ethnic, and it was like, and it was infuriating because, like, at the end of the day, there was just some random person who was the gatekeeper who was deciding, like, if you were enough of this to qualify. I'm like, what is this even? Yeah. And so I didn't really feel like there was that in voiceover, and it felt like a more supportive group of people, and a lot less of the drama that you see in on-camera stuff. So, yeah, I loved it. So, I mean, I didn't really have that kind of, I got to tell my parents or whatever, because they were kind of part and parcel of me growing up in the industry. So.
It's funny now because my parents are trying to explain it to their friends. And he's do you know the Mickey Mouse? He's Mickey Mouse. What? I'm not that at all. Why would you? Yeah, exactly. It's so funny, but yeah.
Actually,
That's so funny. Thank you, Hiro.
Thank you so much.
Problem. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
What's your name?
Sorry. My name's Sean.
Hi, Sean.
So I'm planning to become a VTuber in the future. And do you actually need voice acting skill to actually be a VTuber?
Nah,
And I'm
I
looking
mean-
at Monarch myself.
I mean, it definitely helps if you're different than like the character you create or whatever. I like to consider VTubing kind of like D&D. You know, it's like an OC that you make, but you still become them. Like they're a part of you. So I think it definitely helps, but definitely not necessarily. I think if you're just you, I think that's what the audience will flock to. They want someone genuine that they can connect to. So I think as long as you're true to you, you can explore from there and have fun. But yeah, best of luck getting into VTubing. It's so much fun.
It costs so much money, right now.
It does. It's definitely an investment.
$3,000 I don't have.
That's fair. It's
thank
fair.
you.
Hey, best of luck though. You can get a little PNG VTuber. They're a lot cheaper. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hello. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
Hey, what's
And
up?
So I'm not like applying to be a voice actor or anything. I'm just like a big fan of film and media. So I was wondering, like, for all of you, are there any like roles or scenes that you've been like particularly intimidated by, and like how do y'all get through that, or like what made you prepared for that kind of scenario?
Yeah.
Very supportive over there.
I'll start. It was very recent for me. I had the unbelievable good fortune to be cast as Sid Highwind in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which
Yeah.
thank you. I was very like when I got the audition, I was like, I'm not doing that. I can't. I couldn't possibly. But I did it because my husband was like, do it. So I auditioned thinking, okay, they're never going to cast me. But hey, I got to say I auditioned for it. That's a story. And then I got the call back and then had to go in, and it was just nerve-wracking. You were there. You knew the whole process. I'd be like, oh my God, I got to go in tomorrow. And I was terribly nervous, and I didn't know what to do because I'm such a huge Final Fantasy fan. I've been playing those games since I was a little bitty baby. And now getting to be part of that franchise and like one of the best characters, I think, in the whole series is just incredible. It's such an honor. And I had no idea what I was going to do with it, so I got the idea of like, they were looking for a very specific accent for the character in this incarnation. And I was like, I'm going to call my father and talk to my father for hours to get his voice pattern down. And it is 100% just my father's voice. So much so that when I played it for my brother recently, like there was clips from the game that had been released, and I played it for my brother, and he was like, "Are you giving Dad royalties?" I'm like, shh, don't tell him. Thank God Dad doesn't play games. But it's just, it's totally my dad's voice. It gives me so much authority too in the booth. I'll be like, they'll direct me, and I'll be like, oh, that's not how my dad would say it. Actually, no, that never actually works. But it's that voice. It's one of those accents. It's a very, very like East Texas accent, which that's where I'm from originally. But I'm an actor, so that accent just is kind of living in me. It's not my default anymore. But it's my dad. It's totally my dad's voice. And he just sort of talks like this all the time. And what, you're using my voice in a video game? What? Like with the bleeps and the bloops? And it's so funny. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got through it. I went to Daddy. I asked my parents for help.
It's amazing.
Help on your homework. Yeah. I love it though.
For me, it would be, I basically was Chris Evans' voice match for What If, for Steve Rogers.
I remember that.
And that was really freaking intimidating because for that show, there was only like 3 or 4 of the on-camera actors who didn't come back for the animated show. And he's like the main character in the first episode. And so the whole time I'm like, they told me after I had already finished it that it was gonna be for like canon in the MCU, and I was like, wait a second, so all these MCU fans now are gonna be like listening to me doing this, and I'm like one of the only ones that's not the original actor. Everything ended up being fine, you know, like everybody ended up being really, but receive it, and everything ended up being fine, you know, like everybody ended up being really supportive. But I mean, that was just like I went through everything that he had been Captain America in, and I basically just played the movies through and edited out everybody else's dialogue until I had like 25 minutes of just him in all kinds of different situations. Him, you know, in battle, him not in battle, him talking to Peggy, him talking to, you know, other, like Tony, whatever, like, and basically just kind of went through and got that cadence. Kind of like what you did with your dad, but like I wasn't actually talking to Chris Evans. But yeah, so I just had to really study more than I usually have to for that part, because those were big shoes to fill. It was very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have this character named Hayasaka in Kaguya-sama Love is War, and she's...
Yeah.
Thank you. I love her. She's great. But they cast her off of just my normal voice, not knowing what the later episodes would hold. And this character is like a Mrs. Doubtfire. Like every episode, she's putting on a different role. She'll be like a little boy. She'll be like a cutesy girl. She'll have like a British accent randomly one episode. I'm waiting for her to be an old lady, just waiting for me to have to figure out how to do that voice. But I am not really good with accents, so when I first heard that they wanted me to do an accent, I went, oh no. I went, I have to do this really good because she has to be like convincing. So I called a friend of mine, and they gave me the script ahead of time, and this lovely friend recorded every single line for me, and I would just play it over my Alexa and repeat it, and repeat every line that she would say to get the accent down. But I'm just waiting for her to be an old lady, because that'll be fun to practice. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm waiting. This character, I love her.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely Apex Legends, like that, and I think because there was already so many seasons that it came before, and I was like, and they wanted me to just use my natural speaking voice, which you would think, if they just want you to be yourself, like it's enough, like yeah, I could do that all day, but it was like, I don't know, like, I turn on the acting mode when I have to do a funny voice or whatever, and I'm comfortable doing that because it's just like, it's a way for me and whatever. But when it's just like, yo, be yourself, I'm like, what do you mean, be myself? So anyway, it was a lot of like nerves, and I'm playing Bangalore. I mean, if you know anything about the game, Bangalore's brother. So it's like, and there's like these long cinematic scenes and stuff, and so I really got to put my thespian act on. But no, that was really one of the ones I could say it was a little bit more like, I need prayers up, because I don't know if I'm gonna get through this session. And it worked out well. It just, yeah, it's a little scary. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so we have about 10 minutes left. We're going to try to get through as many as possible. Hello, what's your name?
Hey, my name is Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly.
All
Kimberly.
right. So I also grew up in an African household. Yeah, my brother. And then one thing I want to ask is, like, you know, I have the career, I'm established in life, but this is something I want to do, as a hobby. At what point, either in your experience or as a recommendation, do you take it from a hobby to a career?
So I had that decision to make because it was my side hustle for about 3-4 years before I finally made the plunge into doing it full time. And for me, I was just getting so much work that it was a good problem to have, that it was getting impossible to balance with my work life. And actually my work life was beginning to suffer, and my bosses were starting to notice. So I was like, I'm gonna have a decision to make. And everyone's journey is different, so don't take everything I say with a grain of salt. But for me, my experience is the universe kind of tells you when it's time. Like, and it's scary because you will find every excuse not to do it. Well, but I have insurance, or I have the job security, whatever. And so, taking that plunge is a thing. You will never be ready, and it's a mistake to wait until you are. So just do it, because you only learn by doing it. And the great thing is, like, you can fail and still survive. Like, it's not the end of the world if the first few years of you doing it full time are hard and you feel like you're not going anywhere. That happens all the time. It doesn't mean that you're not on the right path. It just means it's not what you expected. It's never a clear threshold. So you'll know when you're ready, or you'll know when it's time, not when you're ready, because you'll be getting so much work that the balance between your work life and your side hustle becomes too hard to maintain. And then you have a choice to make. And I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So well worded. Wow, I'm gonna use that.
Great
That's a good
answer.
one.
Well,
Oh my God, I
Hi
was
there.
terrified when I made that plunge.
I'm Michael.
hi, Michael.
I had a question about finding yourself typecasted into specific roles and specific voices, specific characters. How do you find the inspiration to specifically find a different voice within yourself? You find yourself saying, like, oh, I'm going to throw on an accent, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. How do you do something different with the voice you have, the limits you have?
Usually it's just through the audition. It's spaghetti at the wall for a while. I am typecast a lot. Obviously, I love my typecast. I love my girly girls, my girls next door. But yeah, normally it's just I'll get a cool audition. I'm like, might as well try it, And there have been times where I've gotten booked off of it, and I'm like, oh my God, wait, okay, let's see how we do this. And I think it's just kind of fun. I think auditions are a great time to practice different things that they're not used to, because you can't really fail, It's just an audition.
I agree with that 100%. I would say, like, to add on to that, like, if you get an audition where they're probably going to be looking for the type that you feel you are, give them that take. And then do one for you. Do one that's totally off the wall. Something that is still, in the moment and still, works with the scene. But something that's just something that you wanted to try. Something that's different from what you usually do, and put that as a take too. Give them the take for them and give them a take for you. And then that way, you might find something that ends up really resonating, and then that could be something else that you really develop further.
And I would definitely emphasize the acting part of it, because that can also, you can have the same instrument, the same tones of your voice, but if the acting changes, it could help with differentiating that. So definitely, if you can take some acting classes, I would highly recommend you do that. There are folks who just have like that one, I say that one voice, but that's all they do, and they're just like, #1 on the call sheet every time. They just
don't count out your own voice.
Yeah. So
I'd say 80% of what I do has been some variation of my own voice. I've done other character voices. I could do accents and stuff like that, but that's not usually what I get hired for.
and we moved a lot from this zany, cartoony voices stuff to now just like, hey, we just want you to use your instrument and find the character, but don't do anything too crazy. So that's great because then a lot of people can jump in.
And you haven't lived until you are in the audition spec. They say, like, hey, we're looking for a J. Michael Tatum type, and then you don't get it.
Yes, that's the worst.
I'm like, apparently I'm not the best J. Michael Tatum type anymore. I love getting typecast. Are you kidding? I love it because it's wonderful to be top of mind for a certain type of character. And in terms of distinguishing it, and this is going to sound very strange and maybe a little lazy, but I don't believe it's the actor's job to make that distinction. It's the storyteller's job. So the same types of characters come back again and again and again all the time, and there's a reason for it. They're compelling. They have a home in different stories, and so I just focus on the writing and like, what story is this person in? I've played dudes with glasses or commanders that lose an arm way too many times in my career. I didn't know that was a trope, but apparently it is. And I'm like, cool, I got it covered. If there's ever a character with glasses and no right arm, I'm in it. But there's always something different to find. It's like in any relationship. If you're with something long enough, like you're gonna learn new things about it. And as I grow as a person, as an actor, just because it's easy doesn't mean it isn't authentic. And I think sometimes it's like, oh, cool, I love playing these characters because there's always more I could do with it. There's always more. So let's give me another shot, coach.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the advice.
All right, so we have a little bit less than 5 minutes. Lightning round questions. Hello.
Hi.
What's your name?
Raina. Just a silly little question. If you had to be stuck in a room with...
Or an elevator.
Or an elevator. Yeah, actually, elevator. To be stuck in an
stairwell.
elevator for at least maybe 2 hours with a character, which one would you want to be with and which would you not want to be with?
Like a character that we've
that you
done?
voice, yes.
There's so many choices.
There really are.
I'm going to go with Commander Irwin because I'd feel safe. Until he started giving a speech, and then we're all going to die.
I would love to be with Maureen, obviously. She would just be showing me things on her phone, all her accessories. We could go online shopping together for 2 hours. It'd be great. That'd be amazing.
For me, it would be Spider-Man because we wouldn't be stuck in the elevator very long. We'd be out. We'd be out.
For me, it would be, I'd love to be stuck in the elevator with Rocklock from My Hero. So, yeah, he seems like somebody would be chill and not panicking. And his quirk would probably be helpful, too.
Thank you so much.
I was hoping you were going to say Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Hello, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Amelia, and I was wondering if you guys have any advice for college-age students about what kind of opportunities there are to get into the voice acting scene in anime and video games especially.
That's a tough one because the industry is changing a lot right now, and it changes on a dime. I think it's not to kill your dreams. It's in some ways never been harder to get into because it's such a huge business now, and the competition is stiff. So the best advice I can give for someone who's in college right now is, so I come from a generation. In fact, I think we all do that. We kind of got into this because we learned how to wear all the hats, right? We didn't just focus on one thing. We focused on music. We focused on this, that, and the other. So we learned what jobs are adjacent to our dream job and learned how to be qualified for all of those. Because the more you say yes to, the more you can do, the more you get to do, right? So don't try to the trick now, it's always been the case, but perhaps more so now than ever, is to cast your net as wide as possible. So don't hyper-focus on the acting. Learn it, do everything you can, but also focus on hey, no one talks about getting into sound engineering. That's a very voiceover adjacent job and will help you as an actor just auditioning at home. Things like that. Focus on other jobs. It's a really big world, and I think people tend to get really hyper-focused on the most forward-facing jobs like acting and writing, and those aren't the only ones. Look for all of them and try to be qualified for as many of them as you can because you'll be in that way. And it's a lot of people get their start by being like, oh yeah, I'm a writer, and then they happen to bring me in because they like my voice on this one, or I started writing because I was directing and I had to rewrite in the booth, and so the actor or the writer was like, hey, do you just want to take a couple of scripts while you're at it? It's just kind of how it happens. So cast your net wide.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and good luck.
Lightning, hello.
Hi, I'm Charlize.
Hi, Charlie.
Oh my gosh, this is. I'm sure. If you could give your younger self any advice when you were first getting into the industry, like not just voice acting, like VTubing or like general acting or music, what would it be? Like, not just business stuff, like how to get yourself out there or getting jobs or making connections, but also how to improve your voice, what to do, what not to do, and like how to make your own like unique style.
Mine would just be motivational, because when I was younger, I was latching on to things that really weren't helping me in my future. So I would tell myself, greater can't come until lesser leaves. That's what I would tell myself.
For me, it would just be to accept yourself, because like especially with on camera and growing up in that, and you're in a world where you're not enough of this or you're too much of that, or you always have somebody telling you what kind of parts you can play, what kind of parts like it does tend to kind of wear on your psyche a bit and make you insecure in who you are. And once you need to kind of quiet all that noise, and it's a lot easier said than done. But like that's the number one thing I would tell my younger self would just be accept who you are. Accept who you are, accept the fact that this is your background, this is your heritage, this is what you look like, this is how tall you are. Like who freaking cares? Like this is you. And accept that, love that, and be true to that, because that's what you got. That's the thing that nobody else can do. You know, and you have to just look at it in that way. Like what you are, what you bring to the table is the one thing that nobody else can bring. So you just need to accept that. And that's what I would tell myself, because I went through a lot of insecurity and a lot of self-doubt and a lot of, just trying to change who I was because I didn't know what I should be when I should have just been me.
Two phrases come to mind. Comparison is the thief of all joy, and be a voice, not an echo.
I wish I fell in love with rejection sooner. I would really audition for something and then not be able to forget about it. So I wish I could tell my younger self like just live and let go. You know, you don't have to focus on that, because now I realize that the audition is the win. Getting that call back is a victory, and just to keep those little things in mind. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Also, Amelie, I think you're really funny and pretty.
All right. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna take a stage selfie. We're gonna take a stage selfie with all of you guys in here. As we're getting set up, I want you guys to come up to the front of the stage, ask your question here real quick to our guest, and then everybody else stand up. Stand up. We're gonna take a stage selfie here.